Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu Campaign.
Welcome back, gentlemen, to Death Watch's Call of Cthulhu Campaign, Descent into Darkness, Season 2. I am Travis. I will be your keeper today. And last we left off, Monroe and Johann had just met each other at Johann's house after a day apart or so. And Whitmire and Dr. Andrews were interviewing young Charlie Murphy. But before we get back into that, let's have our players tell us a bit about their character and what they're thinking right at this moment in the story. Starting with you, Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm playing Johann Muller, a retired history professor, and I'm close to the edge.
I am Brandon, playing Dr. Wallace Andrews, currently interviewing Charlie at the mental institution, and currently I am thinking that we need to get him to sign these papers asking for counsel.
I'm Justin. I'm playing Lance Monroe. I'm currently very worried about Johann Muller's mental state.
I'm John. I'm playing James Whitmire, who's also interviewing young Charlie Murphy. And I don't really care if he signs these papers, but seems like we might be able to get a little more information out of him.
So our story today will begin at Roxbury Sanitarium, where you, Dr. Andrews and Mr. Whitmire, are in the day room interviewing Charlie Murphy. And Dr. Lewis Powell walks in at that moment after he had given you some brief private time together, but that was at the end of a fast talk roll by Mr. Whitmire, and now he's not so sure that you have the credentials, know what you're talking about, so he comes back in the room with a somewhat stern look on his face for you, Mr. Whitmire, but he says nothing else. He does inquire, however, if his absence aided in having Charlie Murphy open up at all.
So I do want to tell him no. Is there like a bluff? I don't think I have that.
Well, you could use any of the social. You could intimidate him, or you could use your charm or fast talk. But you actually don't even really need to do that, because really all that he's done is put one of those insect-like hairs on the table and write one word into the back of Mr. Dooley's journal with the gravy that came with his meal, and that word was Latakia.
All right. Yeah, I'll sigh. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have as much success as you have had.
Yes, I didn't think he would, and I'm afraid from this point it will only get more difficult to communicate with him, as part of the examination requires electroshock therapy, which I am not in favor of. I think it has the opposite effect of what other doctors think it has.
Can you not put a stop to it?
Unfortunately, it's mandated, unless you happen to be good friends with a judge who could put a stay on it.
I might. Can I roll a luck skill to see if I've ever had dealings with a judge?
Well, you've had dealings with judges, just not in a good way.
That came out in my favor?
We won't do luck. Instead, we will do...
library use?
We'll do... You have gotten out of a few legal entanglements on the back of your ability to smooth talk, fast talk people. So we're going to do that, but we're going to do it at penalty, given the nature of your career. But that penalty is canceled out by your bonus die afforded you by being a member of the Humetic Order of the Silver Twilight. So just roll a normal fast talk success. Oh, nice.
Extreme success.
Yeah, so you have had occasion to deliver bootleg liquor to someone you know to be a judge. Let me get you his name.
Michael Thomas, Judge Michael Thomas.
Hugh Holland, the Honorable Hugh Holland. How's that for alliteration?
There you go. Hold on, I gotta update my journal with this information.
Now, Dr. Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
you had failed your persuade roll, the hard persuade roll needed to get Charlie to open up, and we had left off with some uncertainty as to whether or not you were going to push it
Yes.
or spend luck or
Yeah. So
maybe even go ahead.
yeah. So the whole part of like showing him the diary and getting a reaction out of him was like part of the process of pushing the persuade. But I did some more reading, and probably it can't work that way, because what I'm actually going to try to get him to do now is to sign these papers, not explain what happened, just to sign the papers. So I don't know if that needs a different one, or if we can roll it into the other, or what we need to do. Because right now, the important thing is getting him to sign these papers so that he can have competent counsel, and then we can have that lawyer working for us to maybe put a stop to the electroshock, maybe even get him moved out of this place. You never know.
Yeah, you can stick with persuade, because the way you guys have run this is you've been giving him lots of time without pushing him. So I'd say you're still good to stick with persuade,
Okay.
as it needs time to work. However, if you want to change the skill, I can think of a couple of things. If you're well versed in law, then rolling your law skill, you could explain why sticking with his public defender could be a bad idea and he needs good representation. Or if you have something else in that idea, you could switch to a different one like intimidate, where you could put the fear of what will happen to him as the prod to get him to sign.
No, persuade's by far my best option.
What other good skills do you have? We might be able to brainstorm something.
Well, beyond that, then we're just talking about like medicine, first aid,
Yeah, I don't see an angle with medicine
English.
or first aid.
Maybe I can just use lots of big words and impress him. No, I think, let's see, credit rating, I can pay him. Is he interested in money?
You're not sure.
Rifle/shotgun?
Well, you could hold a gun on him and force him to sign.
No, I think persuade's the best option I got.
What's your psychology at?
Like 5 or something, 20,
Oh,
22.
Okay, so before we get that pushed roll, an additional detail I wanted to give you, Mr. Whitmire, something that you're sort of used to, is when Dr. Lewis Powell came in, he came in with 2 orderlies as a response to your fast talk sort of unraveling a bit. And he's starting to make a little bit of small talk, and he's like, so I noticed Dr. Andrews introduced you as Mr. Whitmire, so you're not a doctor, I presume. Is that correct?
That's correct. My field of study lies in another direction. As mainly has to do with, and I'll try to fast talk this again if I can, like just body language, right? Because I want to see if he's acting, basically, right? Like Charlie Murphy.
Sorry, I kind of missed what you were going for there. You're fast talking Charlie Murphy to see if he's acting?
No, my thing here is I'm not a doctor. I'm just really good at judging people, and I'm here to assess Charlie Murphy's body language while the doctor's actually.
I see.
To him.
Were you a policeman or something like that?
I've had extensive dealing with the law.
And you don't even need a fast talk roll for that. That's the God's honest truth.
Nope.
But yeah, you can, with another fast talk, you can try to put him off a little bit.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
He seems satisfied there. Your omission of how your dealings with the police have actually gone in the past gives it that little bit of truth to it, because you said something true, and you let the unsaid part remain unsaid. All right, Dr. Andrews, time for your pushed persuade roll. Well done.
Good job.
So with that regular success, you're able to slide the papers onto the table, and very carefully in the way you have done so far, you begin to describe what these are and why it will be in his benefit. And he thinks about it for a time. Meanwhile, Mr. Whitmire, Dr. Lewis Powell pulls out. It looks like the back page for one of these intellect assessment tests, and he asks you if this diagram that Charlie Murphy drew on the back of it means anything. Let me share it with you.
Okay.
All right, you see that?
Yeah.
So he drew this on the back of one of his tests. He's done it on multiple ones, and for the life of me, I don't know what this means. Does this mean anything to you?
Can I make an education? Or what other skill?
So for this, you would need science physics, although with a critical education role, as this is sort of the cutting edge of science, you might be able to have picked up something. Yeah, so that's Greek to you.
I'll stare at it for a while and stroke my chin and shake my head and sorry, Dr. Lewis, this just doesn't bring anything to mind.
Okay. So back over to the table where Dr. Andrews is sat before Charlie Murphy. He, after a good 5 minutes of thought, picks up the pen and scrawls his name in the spot where he's supposed to sign.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlie. So
I would like to see if I'd be able to get like a copy of this sketch as well. Sorry to interrupt, Brandon.
Yeah, he can. He says, well, you can keep this page. We've already graded the assessment, so I don't see any harm in it.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, so I'll stand up and I'll present that to the doctor, Dr. Carroll. You see, he's in front of these witnesses, signed a request for professional counsel, so I will need to have like a telephone or somewhere I can send a message.
Yeah, you can send off a fax. We also have a telephone.
Yeah, so I want to see if I can go call that lawyer
Okay.
and let him know that we've got the paper signed. So
Yeah, so you remember the lawyer, James Clark, said he was a partner at Antonello and Clark, and you can search that up in a directory. Or I suppose in these days you just dial the operator and they connect you, right?
He's number 5, isn't he?
They connect you to Antonello and Clark, where a woman picks up the receiving end of the line there. Antonello and Clark, how can we help you today?
Yes, I need to speak with Mr. Clark, please.
Mr. Clark is out of the office on his lunch. Can I take a message?
Yes, this is Dr. Andrews. He knows who I am, and I'd like you to leave a message telling him that we were successful in getting Charlie Murphy to sign the request for counsel out at the Roxbury Sanitarium.
All right, so there's a silence while she jots down that information, and she assures you she will get it to him when he's next in the office.
Excellent. Should I fax you these forms right now? Should I do that?
I always use fax because I don't know what my brain is doing trying to go into the future. You can't send a form like that. You could send a telegram.
Okay. Well, I'll just
directly
keep
to
it on me, and we'll bring it.
You get I'm sure they have.
That's true.
Runner
you could hire a courier,
like delivery services,
although not from Roxbury Sanitarium.
Yeah, it's all right. Just as long as
we shouldn't trust them, anyways. Can't trust them.
So after your call is made, Dr. Powell extends his hands upon your expected departure. And it was nice to meet you, Dr. Andrews. You as well, Mr. Whitmire. I hope that your lawyer works fast for Charlie Murphy's sake. And I wanted to extend my ability to act as an expert witness should your lawyer need it in Charlie Murphy's defense.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Thank you, sir. I will mention it.
Excellent.
Thank you for all the help you've given us today. We might have saved this young man's life. It's too early to say.
Well, I certainly hope so.
I'll extend my hand for Dr. Lewis.
He shakes it. I mean, you can still see the suspicion around his eyes in regards to you, but you feel like that's 90% of people you interact with lately.
I want to be on the never mind. I'll nod my head in an appreciative manner and rip the tentacle out of his arm. I felt it when he touched my hand. This is the greatest place ever to just lose your crap.
All right, so back in Whitmire's vehicle, you guys head back to Boston. I just wanted to remind Dr. Andrews that Detective Nichols was going to have some mugshots for you at the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight, as arranged during the dinner with him the day before. And were you planning to share that diagram with Dr. Andrews and get his thoughts, Mr. Whitmire?
He already stuffed it down his pants.
I'm sorry. My phone started going off.
The diagram
what's going on?
that you got from Dr. Powell.
Yes. So I do want to share that with Dr. Andrews. I'll ask him, like, have you ever seen anything like this? Or do you know somebody in one of the universities who might be able to tell us what it is?
Well, this is basically a representation of a black hole on one side and a wormhole in the center, which spits you out the other side into an alternate dimension. It's pretty simple stuff.
I'll shake my head like I understand what he's talking about. Oh, yeah. I've never heard of this before.
Do I recognize it?
So, is he making one?
So it's the same thing. You need science, physics, or critical education success. Although, since you're in the right ballpark, I will give you a bonus die on your education roll, where you're just spitballing there. 54 versus 90, not quite there. But both of you, I mean, just the way it looks, this is like mathy. So taking it to somebody with that kind of knowledge would be the right step.
Yeah.
But we'll pause. Sorry, go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was just going to say to Whitmire that I might be able to get someone at my friend's university to look at this, because we've already got my friend looking into that thing that you found in Charlie's room.
Okay. Yeah. I'll hand him the sheet, or I guess he's already got it, so I'll shake my head or nod my head.
All right, so let's pause with you two and jump over to Professor Muller, Mr. Monroe, as I believe they are still standing, one in the mud room, one on the porch, sort of sizing each other up. Is that where we left off last time?
I thought he had been invited in.
Yeah, I was in.
All right,
But,
so you
but
are.
just barely walked through the door.
And as they're looking at each other.
Yeah,
So
we
what
just
friends?
finished sizing each other up, and he was trying to hide his crazy and not doing a good job, and I was trying to determine what's wrong with him and not doing a good job.
Oh, please, Herr Monroe, come. Is there some things that I can get you? How goes the investigation?
Well, the investigation, it seems to be taking a good path. The good doctor has gone to the sanitarium to speak with the young man, and with any luck, he's getting some good information there. But I had been headed towards Miskatonic University when I had gotten your transmission and became concerned as to your whereabouts. So I went to the location that you had sent me the telegram from and, well, tracked you back down to here. It seems like you've been on quite the adventure.
That is not good. If you can find me this quickly, then the police will probably be soon here.
Well, part of it is that I was looking specifically for you. Nobody along the way seemed to know who had, passed through and what they were doing.
Well, it doesn't matter, Herr Monroe. If the police do not soon get here, then, unfortunately, the disembodied soul of Walter Corbett may possess me. If madness doesn't take me first, of course.
And why would you suspect that Walter Corbett would possess you?
Well, it appears that in one of my fugues, I requested his dagger that he had with him. And just before you knocked, I believe I felt the unmistakable attempt of possession of my body.
And you resisted it?
Of course, as one will.
Mr. Whitmire did not have quite the same luck against Orin. I believe that you're going to need to sit down for this next part, because there was an event that happened last night that I must fill you in on.
Very well. Move some books. Have a seat. Smoke a pipe with me, if you will.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Sit down in my chair, and I'll bust out one of my pipes and select or have Monroe select one from my pipe stand and start moving some tobacco out, load up a bowl.
So there was a lot that had happened yesterday. So I'll fill him in on us pulling in Mr. Call, the fact that we had found a lawyer to represent the young man, the other police officer that was trying to dissuade us, let's see what else happened. The event at the detective's house, followed by everything that happened at the Chapel of Contemplation.
It appears that you have been rather busy.
Yes, almost as busy as you yourself have.
Why? What have you heard?
Well, I met a young man whose truck you apparently stole.
I have no recollection.
Yeah. Then I followed a path of destruction where people claimed that a truck fitting the description that you were driving had broken fences, run over dogs, crashed into buildings. Wait, there wasn't a building. Like crashed into a telephone pole. Yes, and at the place you were staying last, I paid for the damages that you had done to the room before you had fled.
And what were those?
Well, it looked like you had been gnawing on things in the room.
That doesn't sound like me. I rarely gnaw on objects.
Yes, well...
The woman that ran the, it's not a hostel. What is it? The room and board. Did she have a full head of hair? Any bandages?
As far as I could tell, everyone that you had run across during your endeavors seemed hale and healthy. No one seemed to be attacked.
Well, that's good.
Well, other than the dog.
Did I attack a dog?
I didn't get out to investigate what had happened to the dog, but there was a dead dog along your path that looked like it had been hit by a car.
Something that is struck by a car. That is not an attack. No, well, that also could have been.
Well, whatever. I had not found anyone that you had physically injured, though the young man whose truck had been stolen was... when I think back on it, rather distraught.
Anyway, I believe that...
if you had the dagger in your possession, then that could explain a lot of what had happened. Because just as Orrin B. Eddy had controlled James Whitmire, Walter Corbett may have had you under his control.
No, unfortunately, this all happened before the dagger was in my possession. I had an encounter with an old friend, and he is quite the sight to behold.
An old friend, huh?
Yes, but also the memory of what that man, that lisping man, did, because I encountered him in the stacks shortly after you left. He left a toad statuette, whatever it would be called, with me.
Yes, another one of those.
He pointed me in the direction of a book, and the book had knowledge in it that was harmful to me. But I had forgotten about it, thankfully, until the boarding house, when it all came crashing back shortly after I had awoken. What was that, like on the night of the 14th, I believe? I don't know. I do not even know what day it currently is.
There's a knock at the door.
I'll put my hand under my jacket reflexively.
If you'd like, I can answer the door.
No, Herr Muller. A guest should not be imposed upon. I'll slowly stand up and go over to the door. And as I do, I'll draw my gun and put it on the door and look through the peephole.
All right, so you see a policeman standing at the step.
I'll quietly lower the... I'll turn around to Monroe with the gun out, and I'll be like, "It is the police."
Oh dear.
Quick, catch. Joking. I'll put the gun away, and I'll open the door.
It's like 100% James Whitmire approved move.
Good afternoon. sir. My name's Officer Kelly. We're just out canvassing the neighborhood. I'm not sure if you've heard, but there was an attack at Miskatonic Library earlier this morning. And we're looking for an old, possibly a vagrant, immigrant, some speaking a different language is the description we had. And I'd just like to ask you a few questions if that's okay.
Of course, you can ask away, Herr Kelly.
May I come in?
Yes, you may. Be careful. There are books everywhere, and they are all equally valuable to me.
All right, so he steps through the door frame there, removing his policeman's helmet as he does so. And he takes a quick, look around the mudroom and as you lead him into your
Dagger
main
on the
area.
windowsill.
Make a psychology roll for me. Actually, both of you can do that.
Okay.
He removed his helmet. That's 2 in the back of the head territory. Remember that, Dr. Muller. Or
Nice
Professor
psychology
Muller.
roll there.
Thank you.
All right, Lance, given what you know or have pieced together of Johann's, last 24 hours or so, you can't help but feel a little bit guilt by association. So you think that this policeman is being obviously suspicious about you guys in particular. Johann Muller, you know better. You know that this is just how the brain works sometimes. This officer is throwing out a general net as far as you can tell, and you were just one of the many stops along this row.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys can use that as role-playing tips going forward. However, Mr. Mueller, you do have that underlying insanity, so there's always a darkly glistening line of thoughts in the back of your head that are trying to press forward with terrible ideas. But there you are. So, yeah, you've let him in. He's taken his hat off. He's looked around the room. And he's
Officer
like,
Kelly, allow me to introduce a friend and a colleague, Herr Monroe.
I'll stand up and, shake his hand. And
What time is it? Is it late morning?
no, it's pushing
Afternoon.
into late afternoon.
We were just about to go get some dinner at a local greasy spoon I have quite taken to as of late. So if we could make this quick.
Absolutely. Sorry to bother you. I just have a few questions. I'm just wondering if the both of you have been here all day. Hmm?
Yes, for the most part. I believe
most
I got in early this morning from, where was I? Was it north of here? Northeast?
Yeah.
Just choose a different state. It probably
Okay.
looks better.
So I just got back in here this morning. So, yes.
And I'll say, yes, I've been, I actually just arrived myself. I traveled up from Boston, left this morning, and got in just a little bit ago.
Okay. Well, in the time you gentlemen have been here, have you seen somebody, an old vagrant
No.
on the streets? I know that's a difficult question to ask in this neighborhood as there are many immigrants, but the way this man's been described, his clothes were torn and he was not in a good state. I think it might
What
have
is it?
stood out to you.
Was this a Polish or a Polish community mainly?
Polish / Italian. Yeah. Different years have one group has the edge over the other in population, but it bounces
Yeah.
back and forth.
Well, an immigrant
Well, my good
would-
officer, these days, after, the effects of the Great War, there are vagrants and people that are down on their luck all over the place. This neighborhood being one of immigrants as well means that when the two cross, that there are perhaps dozens of people that meet that description in this neighborhood. But as I said, I had just arrived today, so I can't speak too much other than the few that I've seen, in alleyways and wandering down the road.
My friend says that he cannot speak too much, but you have not known him that long to know that he is lying. But I have to agree with him in this case, officer. There are so many, especially amongst the Italians and the Polish, vagrants with ripped clothing who are probably drunk.
Well, yeah, we're just, crossing all the T's and dotting the I's. Sorry to trouble you, but before he departs, I'll just get your best social skill roll to determine. All I'm looking for is the opposite of or as long as you don't roll a fumble, you'll be good.
Ooh, let's see. Social skill. Does that include credit?
So social skills are charm, persuade, intimidate, or fast talk.
Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Well, thank you for your time, gentlemen, and enjoy your dinner.
Of course, of course. Godspeed to you, officer.
Thank you, officer. And might I ask, is it safe for us to be out and about?
I think so.
I'll give Monroe a side eye when the cop ain't looking at me.
The man attacked a woman, so he's unlikely to face down two. And then he kind of takes in your clothes, Mr. Monroe, and your age, Mr. Muller.
Never mind.
Well, perhaps you shouldn't be out after dark, just to be safe.
Thank you, my good man, and good luck on your investigation.
Farewell.
Yes, of course. I hope you catch the scoundrel. And I'll kind of give him a wave and close the door.
Okay. Yeah, and back in the living room, you can see him cross the street out of Muller's window there, and he goes on to another of Muller's neighbors and goes through the same rigmarole. You, from your perspective, though, Mr. Monroe, because of your psychology roll earlier, where you think he was very suspicious of you, that they're paying like he's. It looks for a second almost like he asks specific questions and points over to Johann Muller's house. Of course, you're not certain. You don't see anything like that, Mr. Muller.
Mr. Muller, I believe that just to allay some suspicions, then we really should find some dinner.
And what exactly are those suspicions, Herr Monroe?
Well,
I'll give
the
them
police
a really,
officers,
like 1,000-yard stare.
just the fact that the police are in the neighborhood, and you mentioned that we would be leaving for dinner soon, and just to, follow through with that statement, I believe that we should go find some dinner. And
those suspicions. No, he is not suspicious of me yet, though he should be.
Yes, I'm concerned about what may have happened, and I had planned on going up to the Miskatonic University anyway, and perhaps I can find out exactly what had happened, though I would suggest that you would need to stay here.
Of course, I was already banned from that, from that poor, sorry excuse of a library. And they thought that they could keep me out of there, Herr Monroe. But it is okay.
Do you pull another strand of the librarian's hair out of your mouth?
What do you think I've been
saying
flossing
that?
with this whole time?
Well, be that as it may, I do believe that we should find. You should show me this dagger, and we should find some way to destroy it. If Walter Corbett's spirit truly is trying to control you, and I believe that may be the only way that we can prevent it from happening.
Why would I destroy the dagger?
Well, as Oren Beatty had mentioned, Walter Corbett's spirit resides in there, and as long as his spirit resides in there, then he will try to control you. And while you've had some luck with it so far, I wouldn't count on that continuing. And from everything that I've read about Walter Corbett in journals and case notes, he is not a man that you would want to be in control of your body.
Walter Corbett is a vast well of knowledge, Herr Monroe. He has escaped death into some sort of unlife.
Yes.
At the very least, we should attempt to exercise this knowledge from him for ourselves, and then we can destroy the dagger.
I don't know if the risk is worth the gain in this matter. While he may have a vast well of knowledge, it does us no good if you lose yourself.
He is the least risky path to this, because he has already unlocked the secrets that drive most men mad, Herr Monroe.
Yes, and it drove him mad in return.
Yes, but we're not mad yet, and he could teach us without us going mad. Then perhaps we can last long enough to not have to worry about such trivial matters of sanity and morality.
From the two that I've seen and read about so far that have undergone the ritual that gave them their extended life, it does not seem to be a life that is worth living.
And what happens after, Herr Monroe?
After
you are done with this meager existence, where do you go?
After,
You've seen.
well,
Do you have any idea what is out there? There is no smiling face of God and no warm light of heaven.
yes, I've seen some of the places that a spirit may go, and the things
why
that are
would you
out in the
want
void.
To go there, better to remain in a husk, hollowed out, except for your meager ember of life.
Better to be destroyed entirely, I would say.
But is that possible?
The way that Oren Vietti had mentioned it, it seemed as if destruction of his watch would have freed him to be destroyed.
Freed him from his anchor in the corporeal.
Yes.
That doesn't say nothing about what happens to his spirit.
Well, you may wish to attempt to cheat death and live in a half-life as Corbett did, but I, for one, would rather die and face whatever comes next.
I see that there is no persuading you.
Well, what if what comes next is father?
I've already faced him.
And unfortunately, I don't know that, so I can't can't use that one against him.
A telegram boy shows up right now with that.
All right, before
Yeah.
we switch back to Dr. Andrews and Mr. Whitmire, let's see how this philosophical debate ends up, who the victor is, as we've established these jousting matches, intellectual jousting matches that the two of you get in. Let's see, what are some good skills for that?
We could go, we could go with the hard stats of education or intellect, or we could go with, what is it, like a cult?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So we'll do a combined skill roll. You can pick either intelligence, education, or occult, whatever your best odds are, and face off.
Man.
Mm-hmm. I think that's got to be education.
Yeah. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go. They're
Both regular successes.
Both
And-
regular successes.
And you're tied up as far as the skill goes. So you guys come to a stalemate, and
I
I suppose
failed
you're
again.
agreeing to go off and get dinner somewhere
Yes.
next.
It's
Yeah,
like
well-
talking to a brick wall with you, Monroe. Let's set it all aside and just go have our dinner. Perhaps the last one, and you can regale me with some of your findings in deeper conversation.
Very well. Yes, we can discuss things and perhaps discuss the dream that we shared last night.
Yes, we can discuss that.
Which, yeah, I don't think we had mentioned how weird it was that we both shared a dream.
The
Is
miles
the least weird
distant
thing that you-
in Mr. Whitmire's car, you and Dr. Andrews are on the road back to Boston. You can see the city now. You're almost there. I suppose you guys might want a moment to figure out where your investigations are going to take you for the rest of the day.
Well, I'm waiting for some mugshots to be sent to me back at the mansion, whatever it's called, the lodge. And maybe you want to take a look at those with me and see if you recognize any of them or know anybody who might recognize them. Specifically, I'm talking about the two men that I told you accosted me on the trolley and told me to keep my nose out of this.
Okay. Well, if we're going to go there, let's do a once around the block, make sure we don't see any signs of that
Yeah, good
Logan
point.
Terry.
But if he is
well-
there, it might be time to
How's-
start considering permanently removing him.
Taking him out.
That was
like
a
you're
test. I'm
thinking,
not
Dr.
serious.
Andrews. Oh, well, I'll start tucking the
That tells me what
45
kind of
back into
man
my
you
belt.
are.
I was going to give you this gun,
what
belonged
is
to a
it
good friend of
again?
mine in Peru.
That he has against you, this Logan Terry?
Well, I know that he's working for another criminal. I can't remember what his first name was, but something Malone.
Yeah, Patrick Malone was the guy.
Patrick Malone.
you worked for when you were in Boston before you took off to Peru.
Okay.
Yeah, as they were trying to frame me. At least I imagine that's what it was, as they wanted me to hold on to a gun and also go and, I think it was just scare
I see.
somebody,
So
if I
Patrick
remember
Malone
correctly.
is a gangster.
Yes, as I don't know if he has any dealings with Francis Walsh or not, but I would imagine he probably does.
Well, I'm curious to see, once we look at these mugshots, if we find somebody somebody else that works for Patrick Malone. Because these two gentlemen didn't seem like they would be the type to be leading an organization, if you know what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any problem. Do we want to run this interdimensional travel through wormholes idea past someone else at a college? I mean, we could probably get a runner while we're at the lodge.
We have my friend looking with the Hadron Collider telescope at that insect hair thing. What was it?
What the hell are you
It was
talking about?
electromagnetism. What was it?
I don't know.
No, that's
was,
the new telescope now.
It was
Just leave it.
microscope, electron microscope. Couldn't remember exactly what, but when we go speak to him to see what he's found, then we can probably find someone there that could look into this equation for us.
Yeah, your
Okay. That sounds like
your
a good
teacher
idea.
friend said he needed a few days to try to figure out what the composition of it is.
Yeah.
Of the hair. And circling the lodge hall, you don't see like a police vehicle out there or any vehicle you've seen associated with Logan Terry at this time.
Okay.
So it looks safe.
Sure does. Let's do this,
No,
and
I
I'll
don't.
hand him that 45.
I don't need that.
Oh,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
wrong building. Sorry.
Give me a luck roll, Mr. Whitmire.
Oh no.
Okay. So yeah, as you guys enter into the foyer there, one of the servants comes up to you, Dr. Andrews, with a tray and an envelope on it. Message for you, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll tip him a quarter.
Okay. He accepts it humbly and disappears out of sight. Opening the envelope, you have the 2 mugshots in it that have already been on your guys' link chart for a while, but I'll give them to you individually. So yeah, with these is a message that this is Quinn Doyle and Sweeney Byrne. They're both associates of Francis Walsh, and they have a pretty long rap sheet. Also, the last time they were arrested was recently. I'd give you in the note. It says I'd give you the police report, but I fear that would arouse suspicion, so I've just included the reporting on it when it happened. Let me share that with you guys.
As they were probably found dead, their boss took out the fact that they couldn't get rid of you on them.
Yeah, bootleggers.
Oh.
So this is from the Harvard newspaper, the Harvard Crimson, April 6th, 1921. Headline, Bootleggers at McKean Gate. 2 men were arrested today with 2 large barrels of beer. Quinn Doyle and Sweeney Byrne were apprehended at the McKean Gate by police. The arresting officer stated that the 2 men claimed to not know that alcohol was illegal. It would not say where they were taking it. Students of Harvard know the likely destination for the giggle water was the Final Club Porcelain due to the club's proximity to the gate and their troublesome reputation. Quinn Doyle and Sweeney Byrne both have a criminal history, including theft and assault, and are thought to have an association with Francis Sweetheart Walsh, the notorious gangster of Charlestown. Both men posted bail shortly after their arrest.
Well, problem solved. That's why I'm the guy for the job.
On seeing their images and the names, if you had either one, you would have known them, Mr. Whitmire.
Yeah. I also know that if we're dealing with Walsh, it's probably time to get out of here.
Yeah, so you know that, as Dr. Andrews has already experienced, that Quinn, he's got the motor mouth while Sweeney backs that up with a pair of brass knuckles, and they're pretty loyal to Francis Walsh, number 1 and number 2 guys.
Yeah, and what they, your little conversation on the train, that was them asking nicely. I don't think you want to see them ask the other way, because you can't be running around exposed like you are all the time. Stick with me. I'll show you the ins and outs of getting around the underworld around here.
So you hear
Do I gain a follower now?
Dr. Andrews. Anyhow, you guys.
So these
Sorry, go ahead.
these are the guys that talked to me on the trolley.
Yes.
I see. Okay.
So you hear some laughter in the lounge area, and you recognize that, and some talking. You recognize James Clark is actually here.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll just head over to him immediately with the signed papers.
Yeah. So he's in conversation with another fella at that table there. Looks like that. And they're
he's evil.
and they're laughing and chatting with each other. And he his eyes light with recognition when he sees you guys approach the table, and he's like stands up and he's Dr. Andrews, Mr. Whitmire, how are you?
Quite well, thank you. I'm not sure if you got the message that we left with your
Good.
secretary, but we have these forms signed for you.
Oh, good. That takes care of it, and the $30 retainer fee, of course.
Yeah, I can take care of that.
This is, I don't believe you guys have met him yet. This is No Redding. He's a parapsychologist, a bit of wackadoo academia, I suppose. But he says that playfully, and No offers his hands to each of you guys. And the sense that Mr. Monroe or Justin got upon looking at his picture is a fair approximation of a first, what's the word I'm looking for? First impression of the man. Well, yeah, because he also has a necklace that has some sort of symbol that has the smack of occultism to it.
Oh, snap. Point at it and shout, "You're an occult, aren't you?"
No. And I'm not a wackadoo practitioner. Parapsychology is just the cutting edge. It's the heterodox of psychoanalysis.
So, not understanding what he's talking about, I'll ask him, well, what do you think I'm going to say next then?
Nothing.
What was that guy's name again?
No Redding. N-O-E, and then last name Redding.
I'll grunt and nod my head.
He is a psychic.
Seems like he knows his field pretty well.
In all seriousness, parapsychology is the study of mental phenomena that are outside of orthodox science. So things such as telepathy, hypnotism, and so on. I could hypnotize you if you'd like a demonstration.
Say ghosts. Yeah. Yes. Right now, please.
Okay.
I'll move.
It's like, well, have a
closer.
seat. Well, perhaps we should retire to the bar where it's a little more quiet, less distractions.
Yeah.
And James Clark he seems entertained by this, and he's like, I think I'd like to see how this goes.
Yeah, I guess I'll tag
And you
along.
guys proceed to the lounge. So this order member, No Redding, leads all of you into the bar at the lounge, and he instructs you to have a seat in one of the chairs, not like the bar stools, but one of the ones you can sit down and relax in. And he drags one up across from you, and he explains that this process isn't going to work unless you want it to. So you do? Okay.
I do.
All right. So I just want you to take in how calm it is in here right now. We have the door closed. You can't hear anything. And what I want you to do next is just stare at this point. And he points his finger to the middle of his forehead in between his eyebrows. So just look right there. Keep looking at that. And then focus on your breathing. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Breathe in for the same amount of time. Okay, while you're doing that, I just want you to imagine that you're going down a stairwell. There's a flight of stairs, and you're walking down them slowly, descending, and they hatch back. You have another flight, and you're going down and down and down. And his voice takes on this kind of a drone, and you're looking at that point in his forehead while the rest of you are spectating, are up by the bar to give him a bit of space, quietly watching. So, Mr. Whitmire, if you want to be hypnotized, then this is an opposed roll. Well, actually, if you want...
Can I not oppose
Right,
it?
it just depends on, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If he succeeds.
So, if you're okay to let it happen, then we'll just count on his roll.
Yeah.
Sorry, just looking at your power. Oh, you got a high power. Okay, let's see how he does. All right. So yeah, this trance-like utterance and the focus on this odd point on his forehead and the hush within the lounge as the walls are thick, so any traffic or any sounds from out in the lounge area are just a dull hum, and you enter into a hypnotic state. And he pauses to lecture the rest of you guys. So as you can see, he is in a highly suggestive state right now. So, Mr. Monroe, did you Mr. Whitmire, did you steal money from your mother when you were a child?
Yes.
And what did you do with that money when you stole it?
I bought tobacco.
Oh, that's not very nice, or that's very naughty of you, Mr. Whitmire. What kind of tobacco did you buy?
Pipe tobacco.
And where would you go to smoke your pipe?
I don't smoke
You
a
just,
pipe.
what did you do? How did you smoke the pipe tobacco?
I sold the tobacco in smaller piece portions for more money than it would cost for half a pouch of tobacco.
Mr. Whitmire, I believe you will find in your jacket a pouch of tobacco.
Am I with it enough to reach into my jacket?
Yeah,
pocket?
I mean, you could. He's suggesting there is one there,
Okay.
and since
So, yeah.
you're in the hypnotic state, you believe that there is one there, whether or not there may be one there.
All right. So yeah, I'll reach into my side pocket, like inside my vest, and
Yeah, so you pull out a pouch of
pull out
tobacco,
whatever's there.
but to the rest of them, you have nothing in your hand. Oh, look at this, Mr. Whitmire. There's some gentlemen who are in need of tobacco. Why don't you demonstrate how you sold this to me?
Okay. So yeah, I'll get up and go over to where Dr. Andrews and Mr. Clark are, and then as I would use my fast talk skill to try and depart with a little extra money, because when you break up the actual pouch, I should be able to dole it out for smaller portions. All you really need is a bowl, and it'll cost you less in the long run because you're not having to go buy a full pouch yourself.
Well, I guess
James Clark with us. Sorry, go ahead, Dr.
yeah,
Andrews.
I'll say thank you for the tobacco. Here is your payment, but I won't give him any money.
Yeah, James Clark, he laughs. All right, I'm sold. And he does the same sort of thing. And then he claps at the end as though applauding the demonstration, and that kind of snaps you out of it. So you only have a vague memory of getting up out of the chair. It's kind of like when you drive to a place and you don't quite remember how you got there. But then if you give it some time and you think about it, you'll be like, okay, I understood what happened. So there's no memory loss associated to you, but it is a very odd feeling to have experienced now. And no Redding looks even more evil.
Yeah, I'll thank him for the demonstration.
You're welcome. You're welcome. See? Not wackadoo. What do you think, Dr. Andrews?
That was a very entertaining demonstration.
And Mr. Clark's like, well, these men are actually here on business, Mr. Redding, so I should probably attend to that. Entertaining as always. And no gets off to go wherever he does. And so you're left there with Mr. Clark, and he has your papers. So he says, the way this is going to work is the first thing I'm going to do is go file a discovery on the evidence that the prosecution's going to bring. And sometimes that can be pretty quick. Sometimes it can take a few days. But as you guys are the investigators here, if you're interested in looking at that evidence, I'll have to hire you on as private investigators working for Antonello and Clark, if that's an acceptable arrangement.
That would probably be for the best. Well, they're also planning on starting shock treatment on him, which we probably want to stop
Yes.
as well.
And his the doctor there, Dr. Powell, as we left, he asked me to tell you that he offers his services as an expert witness in Charlie's defense. So he's sympathetic to us, but we should probably work quickly to get these shock treatments stopped. Maybe even see if we can have him moved to somewhere else.
So this is when I'll broach the subject that I have a judge, or I may have a judge, or know a judge that would be very agreeable to stopping the shock treatments. As if you could file the necessary paperwork, Mr. Clark.
Okay, so in order, yes, I think, I'm not sure the particulars when you're being held awaiting trial. It is a little bit of a gray area, what we can stop, but I will look into it. Dr. Andrews, that's good to hear that Dr. Powell will be an expert witness. I also wanted you to act as an expert witness, given your medical opinion of how the autopsy or the coroner's report turned out. Would you be willing to testify under oath?
Absolutely.
Good. And what was your judge friend's name?
That is, well, I got to bring up my journal here.
Well, he had a drink. Yeah.
Hugh Holland.
So James Clark laughs at that, and he's like, "Oh, Holland, he's a member of the order."
Ah.
Oh, perfect. That'll make this even easier, and I'll pop my knuckles. No, that's not what I meant.
Okay,
It's just a
so
habit.
just so you know what I'm doing, first I'm going to go file that discovery. Then we'll see if we can get a stay on the electroshock therapy. And I'll let you guys know as soon as I know something. So I better head back to the office and get back to it.
Sounds like a great plan. Thanks for this opportunity, Mr. Clark. I know as investigators we will not let you down.
Whitmire and Andrews, PI. All right, we'll leave off there and head back over
Yeah.
to the Arkham crew, Professor Muller and Mr. Monroe, as they head out to eat. Professor Muller, you know of, if you want to stay in your neighborhood, there is an Italian restaurant called Anton's Restaurant that is actually the best Italian food you've had in Arkham, maybe in Massachusetts. A modest, clean place, and supper can be had for less than $1. Or alternatively, if you'd like to get out of your neighborhood, you can go on elsewhere.
I think I'm good for Italian.
And as we were getting ready to leave, I was going to ask him where the dagger was and if it's secure.
I guess my eyes will narrow at Monroe at that one. It is secure.
Okay,
And
I
I'll
want
open
to
the
make
door
sure that
for
it
him.
doesn't... Should we take it with us just to ensure that nobody can take it?
That's exactly where you want to take a dagger that is capable of possessing people.
Well,
It is safe. It's in the basement.
it's in the basement?
Yes.
Is there any chance of some unlucky fool coming across it and
There is
losing
always
himself?
a chance, Monroe, and it is a chance that I am willing to take. The dagger will remain here, and it will be safe.
Okay.
Now, come on.
But when we come back, we should probably move it from the basement to someplace a little less likely to have random passerbys.
I agree with that. Yes. We could probably find some other place.
So Anton's, turns out to be a nice family restaurant with real Italian immigrants cooking their best recipes, and you guys are settled in there and you get your food, and there you are.
One of the things that I would like to talk to him about is the book that he had found.
The book?
Yes, you mentioned that you had found a book and that reading it had kind of led you into a blacked out state.
Was this about the one in the stacks? Is that,
No, the one that you mentioned that you had recovered a book and read it. I believe you mentioned that you had read it at the boarding house before you had lost another section of time.
I don't believe that I read any books at the boarding house. It's hard to recall the trauma from the dream. I don't even quite know what was real or what isn't, even to this point right now.
Well, as I'm sure that any illusion would tell you, I am real, and this is real right now.
Oh, I'm quite sure it all feels very real, but so was my lawyer that showed me his lawyer badge before requesting that I have trepanning done to my skull while I was in the asylum.
I'm sorry, what?
Hmm?
I don't remember you speaking about being in an asylum.
As far as I know, I never have been, but it sure felt real.
Perhaps you could tell me about these things that seemed real but weren't.
Well, yeah, it was just a whole jumble of incidences. I came home to discover that a dear friend of mine, Herr Kimball, had decided to pay me a visit, and that sent me off my rocker. And then the next thing you know, I'm in the paddy wagon, off to the asylum, and no one can see Herr Kimball, of course, because he most likely was not there. But anyways, and the delusion continues, and eventually I wake up in my chair, because where else would I have been?
Interesting. And when did all of this begin? Was it at the same time, like directly after?
That would have been, it would have been sometime after I awoke near the banks of the Miskatonic, disheveled and cold, the bottom of my pant leg still wet. From the river, I hope. When you get to my age, one can never quite tell.
I'll kind of laugh at that. I'll say, you've had yourself quite an adventure in the day and a half since I parted ways.
I did, and I lost my favorite pipe.
Well, that's not good.
No, when I came upon the crash site, there was a crowd, and I was unable to retrieve it from the passenger seat.
That's probably not a good thing for them to find either.
Do you believe that you'll be able to get this young boy free of his charges?
Well, all evidence that we've seen seems to point that he was set up to take the fall for someone else.
Obviously.
But depending on how good the lawyer is that we found and how cooperative the judges are, it's possible.
Well, that is good, because the next, well, yes, that is good. I hope that the young boy comes to no harm. It obviously could not have been done by a human, but therein lies the problem.
Yes.
You know,
although the things that we saw in the dream do point to the fact that something may be buried out there, that something ancient. And the carvings that you got of the frog are the same as the carvings that I've found in several locations. One of them being with Oren Bietti.
Well, the consortium, they are not to be trifled with. They didn't have any love for the Church of Contemplation, to say the least. And I wonder how much of a hand they played in that destruction.
You mentioned the consortium a few times. Who are they?
I do not know, and if I am to be honest, most of my information comes from a hallucination of a ghoul. But I feel that this is correct information. Some part of me, perhaps. Let's see if I can recollect. They worshipped, was it Zogua?
Zagua, yes.
Long ago, but they blasphemed, I believe. All of my information is rather sketchy. Passings of notes here or there.
Well, I believe that dream that we had was about an ancient civilization that also worshipped Zagua.
Very, very well could be. I mean, the images and the dreams, they all came after having some sort of contact, at least in my case, with a consortium. What's the word? I can't remember. But yeah, with a member of the consortium.
Do you have any way of contacting this consortium?
Apparently, all I need to do is get on a train or be alone in a bunch of books. He seems to have no problem finding me. And the next time I see him, I will shoot him, or worse.
That would be a shame. They seem to know quite a bit about not only the Church of Contemplation, but many other things that I would love to have information on as well.
It doesn't matter what they know. You can't get a straight answer out of them, and then the next thing you know, you're plucking the hair out of some poor woman and eating it. Oh.
I'm sorry, what?
Hmm?
you,
I imagine you saying that while like cutting a steak up or something, and then just, huh?
you've mentioned several things that concern me, Mr. Muller. Perhaps this should be, you should take a lighter role in our investigation from here on out.
Oh, trust me, I attempted to, when I got on the train, to go look into more library stacks and stacks of books for you lot, and instead I am accosted and have the whammy put on me, as the dungeon, or the keeper likes to say. He has some sort of personal vendetta.
Well,
are you going to finish that?
yes. Perhaps after I get done with my work at Miskatonic University tomorrow, we can head back to Boston and discuss with the others some of the things that have happened.
Ah, yes, that sounds good. That sounds very good. I would need a good night's sleep, of course.
By any chance, do you know of a boarding house nearby that I might be able to stay in?
Yes, I'm sure that we can find one for you real quick.
Okay.
What would I roll for that, Travis?
No roll necessary.
No
You
roll.
can give him one in the area that you live.
Okay, yeah, I'll
Without-
pull out a fountain pen and write on a napkin.
Okay. So yeah, he gives you that address in that district that he lives, and the mill's winding down. Your drinks are being refreshed again, so that all you guys have left to do is finish those up. But was there anything action-wise you guys wanted to take, or goal-wise you wanted to take with the rest of the day?
I think my goals are mostly fried, so it's all up to Monroe on that.
I did want to, talk to him about any books that he may have had at his house that weren't there before.
Okay.
Go through some of the books that he had, because they definitely would have been of interest to Monroe.
Well, what was his name? A young man for whom worked for Herr Merriweather came by.
Thaddeus Grunwald.
Grundwald, I believe. Among
Mhm.
the dagger, he brought several other personal effects of Herr Corbett, if those could be of interest to you.
Yes, if I'd have a chance to look through some of those, I would be grateful.
Yeah, Mr.
Right.
Monroe, you know him to be the secretary at the SEU.
Okay.
All right, so let's pause with you guys and bounce back over to Andrews and Mr. Whitmire in the Lodge Hall bar. What are you guys going to get up to next?
Hey, so what I want to do next, since we're at the lodge, is go to the library and see if I can research that word that Charlie wrote in gravy on the diary. What was that word again?
Latakia? You're not sure on the pronunciation, but that's how it reads to you anyways.
What's the spelling?
You could actually, if you can succeed at an extreme education roll, you might actually know
How do you spell
what
it?
it might mean. Yeah,
Me
go
too.
ahead.
I failed.
Yeah, so you're uncertain. You guys discuss it for a moment and decide to head up to the library, or at least Dr. Andrews does. Are you going with him, Mr. Whitmire?
Yeah, I don't really have anything else that I need to be doing and don't want to be caught outside alone, so I'll go.
All right, so give me a use library roll. Library use?
Should I push it with the consequence be that I set the library on fire? Let's both push it.
Push it.
Well, let's get the justifications if that's what you're trying for.
Well, because I get frustrated and burn that mother
Does this
effer
place
down.
have like somebody who's in charge of the library? Like a librarian of any sort?
No, it doesn't have a librarian. There is a list of what's in the collection, which when you look at it, it's predominantly philosophical, scientific, and occult writings. So it may just be that the term you're trying to look for doesn't belong to any of those categories.
All right.
Wait, did
Oh, well, I never got the justification. What are you doing different? Like what? Let's,
'cause Oh, I'm remembering back to my school days when I used to have to research
Oh,
a
okay.
subject.
Hang on.
And if I don't make it or didn't make it, then the consequence would be I'd burn the library down like when I went to school.
Yeah, let's not burn the library.
Well, I made it, so I got 24 out of 30.
Okay. So yeah, you just happen to be perusing through a book by a philosopher called John of Damascus, and just by a little luck, you come across that term, Latakia, however it might be pronounced, and within the context it's referenced, it appears to be a port city in Syria.
Looks like I'll clap Dr. Andrews on the shoulder and say, "Well, friend, looks like we're going to Syria." And then snap the book closed in front of us.
And
How do you react to this?
yeah, so let me see that book.
Okay, I'll hand it to him.
And what does it say, Keeper?
So it's a philosopher named John of Damascus, who was a Christian monk, priest, hymnographer, and apologist for Christianity. It's just sort of an autobiography of his life. So the context in which Latakia mentioned is just in his travels through Syria.
Is like a city in there in Syria or something?
Right, a port city.
Okay.
So, shall we gather
Yeah,
together?
I think it's a bit early to be traipsing off to Syria. It's quite a ways away. We should do some more research. But thanks to you, now we know how to narrow down the field. So now we could start with simply a study of Syria, specifically the port city of importance to us is Latakia.
I was really hoping this was our shot to get out of town.
Well,
I don't think you understand the type of people that are after us.
we have a lot to do here still. So, at any rate, my friend said he would need a couple of days with that microscope. So, unless you can think of anything important we need to do between now and then.
No, this was the same friend that was going to help us with that drawing, right? Or he'd
Yeah,
have
I'm
somebody
thinking
that could help
he
us with the
could
drawing.
Probably lead us to someone who might be able to help us with the drawing.
Okay. No. I mean, that's really all I've got. Unless you want to go and crash whatever Monroe and, well, I don't know where Muller's
when
at, but
was he
Monroe
supposed
is
to be
doing.
back?
We can go. Well, this hasn't even been a full
Yeah, he's
day
only been
yet,
gone
right?
since this morning. Mr. Muller has been gone since the morning before.
Yeah, so Muller's been gone for a while, but
Well,
are we meeting up with
Did
Monroe
you guys
later
make
tonight?
such arrangements?
I believe I had just said that
No.
I was going to go look for Mr.
yeah.
Mueller and that I would contact them.
Yeah, he did. We didn't make a plan, so I don't have anything to do except for try to research Latakia, and
Okay.
so that's what I'll be working.
As I would like to try and get a forgery of this locket.
All right. I believe you had instructions to leave it in a deposit it at a bank.
Yeah, as if I can get a good enough forgery of it, then I will.
All right. So, you think you might be able to? Well, you're done as far as this library goes. If you went on Dr. Andrews to a bigger library, you might have a chance of understanding more about Latakia or Latakia.
Yeah. Well,
And-
what time is it right now?
So you guys, it would be coming up on lunchtime for you guys,
Yeah. So let's go get something to eat, and then afterwards.
or I suppose it's after actually. It's just like a couple hours after. You still
So
can.
much
You
for
guys
that
drove
idea.
straight back from the. You probably skipped lunch unless you
Yeah.
ate in the car ride.
No. Let's go have a late lunch.
Yeah, I'd
and
be
then,
up for lunch.
I'll head to the Boston Public Library, and you can be about your business. We'll go have lunch at O'Flanagan's.
O'Lafferty's.
Yeah.
O'Flanagan's.
O'Lafferty.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Mr. Monroe, since you said you were going to send a message, does that become a point of priority for you?
It was going to be something I would do after dinner, but yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Dr. Andrews at the Boston Public Library again. You can fill the frustration you felt the day before when you came here and you fumbled your used library rolls, in fact, or one of them. And you know that's not your strong suit, but you could, of course, approach a librarian and try to get them to do the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah, that's what I want to do.
Okay, so we'll leave it to one of your social skills.
Intimidate.
No, we'll just try persuade. I have success. I am a success.
Okay, so you...
That's what he told himself every year of medical school. When he passed, he would say that. So remember that when you're giving him his results.
So prefacing the request to the librarian, Dr. Andrews strolls up and says, I am a success. Therefore, you need to ensure that I continue to be a success. And his persuade roll goes off, and the librarian goes off to see what he can find. And he comes back, maybe 30 minutes later, and he says, well, you're right. Latakia is a port city in Syria, but it is also a term that tobacconists use to refer to the mixes of certain tobaccos, predominantly pipe tobaccos. So it'd be in the category of, say, like Virginian or Burley, so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Oh, it helps me so much more than you could ever imagine.
Oh, really? I'm intrigued by the tone in which you said that. What do you mean? What's the nature of your research?
I will return and explain all to you in due time. And then I'll run out of there.
Okay. And where do you run to?
Well, I got to try to catch up with Whitmire. Because we ate lunch and then I came here, right?
Yeah.
So I need to go to where Whitmire said he was going. Because I know he broke into Dooley's tobacco shop.
Yes.
So I need him to take me back there. Because maybe Charlie was telling us that he's hidden something there with that particular type of tobacco. But also, now, didn't we have a note that Charlie wrote, Charlie's customer notes? Did he put Latakia in that note somewhere?
No. In fact, part of the information you got as he was trying to distinguish what this was is that this wouldn't be like a brand of pipe tobacco. It would be the composition of the tobacco in it. So, like if you were to get Dunhill, it would be a certain percentage of these varying types of tobaccos. And he was like, for example, Virginian, Burley, Latakia, to varying percentages.
So Latakia would be like if it was grown in a certain area, or it's just a certain strain of tobacco?
Your voice changed just now, Dr. Andrews, but I would say what you would need to answer that question is a tobacconist.
Yes. So forget all I said about chasing down, what's his name?
Mr. Whitmire.
Yeah, because I understood what he was saying incorrectly. So, but the answer's got to be close to there. So I guess next step, since the only tobacconist I know is already dead, is like, I don't know, a directory, phone book, whatever they call them. See if I can find another one nearby that I can speak with.
Put out a help wanted ad, tobacconist wanted, for research into the paranormal.
I think that would take longer. Like, I'll ask the librarian where I would find such a person.
Well, we do have a directory here of the tobacconists in Boston, at least those that are listed. I'm not a smoker myself, so I couldn't point you to one, but you're free to take a look. They're usually pinned up right there when you enter the library.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go check those out.
Yeah, they have these little like wooden booths with dividers in them where these directories are, and you walk up into one and you can start moving your finger down looking for tobacconists, and you find a place called Clayton's that seems to be pretty close to where you are now.
Okay. All right, so that'll be my next stop then.
Just so I remember it. Okay. All right. So we'll pop in with Muller and Monroe one more time before we leave off for the night. You are interested in looking at the orbit journals. Is that right, Monroe?
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought that there was more than just the Corbett journal. I thought there was a tome of some sort.
Well, there is the De Vermis Mysterious, but I believe in a meta sense, Johann hasn't mentioned all that he knows of it, and he put it amidst a stack of books to hide that it's actually there. So I'm not entirely sure if he has it. I didn't hear that in any of the conversation, anyways.
Okay.
Could be mistaken.
Yeah. And I believe I was already insane when I was going to send off the second telegram. So it might have happened in a delusion.
Okay. Well, then we'll just go over, and maybe luck will allow me to find it.
What specifically are you looking for?
Just going over the stuff of Corbett's that came along with the dagger.
Gotcha. Well, as you peruse them again, I can highlight a few things for you.
Okay.
Let me pull those up.
Yeah, I'll make a spot on my desk where he can sit down and peruse them while I smoke my pipe and, I don't know, stare at the wall.
And I will ask if we can stop by a telegraph office so I can send a telegram to Mr. Andrews and Mr. Whitmire to let them know that Johann is, for all intents and purposes, safe.
Air
and
quotes.
so am I.
You didn't add sound at the end of that.
Well, no, I didn't.
Okay, so Corbett's journals, they begin in the early 1800s, running to his death in the 1860s. And of interest, he begins talking about a tome that he found while he was digging, as he writes, up ye subjects, but he doesn't elaborate. But he says that the text promises a studious practitioner the opportunity to converse with the most powerful and wise being, not of this world. And taken with Orrin B. Eddy's words that he spoke, you would assume this is Zagua, and the tome is the Liber Ivanus.
Okay.
And then he spends some time apparently deciphering the script, and he learns how to call upon being that he calls the Dark Man. The ritual describes the blood of 3 willing individuals spilled by a blade, and he says he's not as of yet unable to remove the stain of our shared sacrifice. And you know that Corbett's blade has a rusted appearance on it. Perhaps that is blood somehow after all these years.
Okay.
He begins to describe how his colleagues see him as a prophet, although you do have in the back of your head that Orrin B. Eddy's journals described Corbett as a man who liked to lie and put himself at the center of things.
All right.
He describes how the Lord Granter of Secrets has revealed the process to become a pure spirit, seemingly but this is kind of at odds with what Orrin B. Eddy says, because Orrin claims that this process came from Egyptian funerary notes that to belong to Nephron Ka.
Yeah. But, there's always the possibility that Corbett played them off as that.
Right.
But I guess those are the kinds of things that we've got to discover.
He does name a member in 1847 of the Chapel of Contemplation as a Boston councilman, Daniel Ellsworth, head of the city council. And that kind of goes in line with what Orrin had said about attracting powerful and wealthy individuals in Boston.
Okay.
He describes the process to manifest a dark hunter using a dagger, the same dagger that he contacted He Who Waits in the Dark, or maybe that's not the term, our Lord Granter of Secrets. He uses the same dagger to summon a separate entity he calls the Dark Hunter by drawing a diamond in the sky and reciting Evocant Venatora, and he said he'd copy those into the notes on how to summon the foul creature, which is included with these journals. He also describes another power called rigor vitae, which appears a method to keep flesh from wearing through the vigors of mortal time. He suspects it could also be used in the event that peril may strike to guard against it, although any description of that ability is not within the journals.
Okay. I'll ask Muller if he minds if I take these back with me and look into them a little bit deeper.
A small twitch will begin to happen under one of Muller's eyes. Please, Herr Monroe, take some with you, but be careful.
Oh, most certainly. There seems to be quite a bit of information in here that is unique, but I will bring them back on the morrow.
Yeah, the final entry to highlight is the May 19th, 1866 one, where he says that he has forced the follower to obey thy master's will, which is all caps for some reason. And he describes after only 4 stern commands, he was able to turn the false minister Michael Thomas to his cause. And that would sum it up. So sorry to interrupt you there, Johan.
No, I was basically just agreeing that Monroe could take the texts if he would return them.
Yeah. So yeah, with that, I'll kind of pack those up and head to the boarding house.
Okay.
Have a good night.
So with a few new threads to follow and some plots up in the air, we will have to close today's session there. Thanks for playing, guys. I appreciate it, as always.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that was fun.
It's good
Thanks,
to
Travis.
see the dagger, Justin.
Now
Yeah.
I stab. Oh,
No, it's down in the basement.
Oh. This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.